Hi everyone. Thank you for meeting this afternoon. My name is Emily Ibarra and today I'm here to present my design development process for Aprende, a Spanish vocabulary learning app. To assist me with that today, I would like to go ahead and introduce you to Allison. Allison is a 30-year-old woman living in San Diego, California. She has her MBA in marketing and is currently working as a digital marketer. Allison currently works from home and uses video chat to communicate with clients and coworkers. She is comfortable with and regularly uses her mobile device to look up information. Allison enjoys and takes pride in teaching others new skills. And at the end of the day, she enjoys playing games or watching television to unwind. Allison has been trying to learn Spanish potentially to reach a broader audience of clients in her area. Her long-term goal is vocabulary retention, learning 5 to 10 new words per day. She would like to find an app that would assist her with this and would allow her to learn at her own pace. In her previous experience with vocabulary apps, she has needed more repetition of lessons or words, so having the option to do this is important to her and her learning goals. Lastly, she is looking for something to test her knowledge so she knows if she is retaining what she has learned. Evaluating the problems at hand, it seems that current vocabulary apps aren't offering users options or enough options to review previously learned material or to test themselves on what they know. Allison needs a way to continually review and be tested on previously learned vocabulary because this keeps her engaged and ensures that she can recall the material outside of her short-term memory. We will know this to be true when we see Allison's continued engagement with the product and when she achieves her daily goal for vocabulary words. When Allison is using existing apps on the market, she has difficulty staying engaged. Oftentimes the apps aren't offering testing to see what she actually knows, so it's easy for her to lose interest. Allison has trouble with personal drive and motivation. Current apps either aren't doing enough to encourage this, or they allow the user skip day opportunities, which breaks her personal streaks. According to Allison, I have limited time each day to devote to study and I want to make it count, but if I don't see progress, it's hard to stay motivated. With all of this in mind, I started with some initial wireframes and prototypes for Aprende. Here I have the splash page and then the login page, which includes social login options, account creation, and the option to continue as a guest. Password recovery was designed and successful recovery links the user back to the login page. Continuing as a guest prompts a one-time splash explaining account benefits and prior to them moving on to onboarding. If the user would like to make an account, here is the account creation page, and then I have them moving through the onboarding process. The intention for account creation was for this to be quick and painless by asking only the absolute necessary questions and then to have the customer agree to the terms of service. For the onboarding service, this too was intended to be relatively quick, establishing the user's study goal and showing them where to begin. Allison can decide if she would like her study goal to be set in words or minutes per day and if she would like to set up study reminders. Once this is complete, Allison would be taken to the main lesson screen where she is shown her customized study goal and where to begin her first lesson. Next, I have the main lesson screen or home screen. I wanted to prominently display the study goal at the top here so the user always knew where they were at or what they had left. This should ideally provide them with motivation as well while they are working on their lessons for the day. The user would have the option to toggle between their upcoming lessons or completed lessons. At this time, the bottom navigation contained options for this main lessons screen, flashcards, and an account section. Once the user actually begins a lesson, this is an example of what that would look like. The user is asked to select the correct answer prior to being shown what that is. From there, they are given both an explanation of usage and contextual examples. They also have an option to add the word to their flashcard deck. On this screen, the lesson progress is shown in the bottom. Moving on, once the user completes a lesson, The words they learned are summarized along with their updated daily study goal. They can choose to continue to the next lesson or return to the main lesson screen. Once back at the main lesson screen, you can see an example of what repeating a lesson might look like. By moving to the Completed tab, the option to repeat Lesson 1.1 is now available. This way, Allison would be able to go back to this lesson to refresh any of these words or add them to her flashcards at any time. Navigating to flashcards in the bottom navigation takes you to the flashcard menu here. Allison would have the option to create her own custom decks, edit and delete those decks. She could also choose to study from an existing flashcard deck from the built-in library. For some initial prototype testing, I wanted to focus on some onboarding elements, the lesson experience, and locating the flashcard menu. Here I have the direct tasks. 1. Continue as a guest user. I wanted to test how the user would open the app for the first time and complete the onboarding process as a guest user. Since I was giving guest users a different splash screen than non-guest users, I was interested how they would respond to this. 2. Begin and complete a lesson. Would users be able to find a lesson easily, and was it where they expected? I felt this was key to the overall success of the app, since it's the main functionality of what people like Allison are here to do. 3. Repeat a lesson. Users like Allison have expressed that they need to be able to repeat a lesson as needed, so this functionality easy to find and use. 4. Access the flashcard decks. Adding new words to the user's flashcard decks seems like an important part of studying. I wanted to see if the location for this was in the right spot and watch where and how the testing participants attempted to navigate to this item. All user testing was completed using Jacob Nielsen's error severity rating scale. Let's take a look at the initial findings. While attempting to proceed as a guest, the first splash screen that I designed had the user make the same selection twice. There was some confusion with this, and it was reported that this could cause some frustration, so some adjustments were needed to how this was being handled. I had considered making some changes to how that information was being presented, either the login screen later on after the lessons, or how the splash screen interaction was happening. Secondly, it was discovered that test participants were initially looking for the completed lessons first in the bottom navigation. The second spot they looked was where I had it placed. However, I thought it was best to move it to the first place they were looking for ease of use. For my revisions, I decided on the following changes. I felt it was important to educate the user on the benefits of having an account, but not to make them feel like they were making the same selection twice. I also wanted to make it more obvious that the interaction was a pop-up and not a similar screen, so I attempted to reflect that in the first revision here on the left. The user has the option to create an account or simply tap to continue. Next, the completed lessons were moved into the bottom navigation, and the lesson menu was updated to reflect that. If the user clicks into the completed lessons prior to finishing any, they will be provided with a message encouraging them to study. Otherwise, their completed lessons will be here, with the option to repeat them. Any sections that had the navigation were updated with the new navigation as well. So, what's next? How can I improve Aprende from here? From my first round of user testing, I had some really fantastic user feedback regarding how to handle adding flashcards to custom decks and how the participants would like to see that handled. I think exploring and testing some of those options would be a great bounce point to expand on some functionality. I would also like to perform another round of user testing to see if my revisions were a move in the right direction. Depending on that user feedback, I will evaluate if any further revisions are necessary prior to moving on to a higher fidelity mock to provide to the team. Now that the work that I have done on this project so far has been summarized, I would like to reflect on some of the pros and cons. as well as what I've learned from this. Doing user testing and evaluating the data was extremely enjoyable to me. I have learned how fascinating and valuable participant feedback is, especially early on in the process. Both interviewing users and then having users go through the scenario tasks I set up was really eye-opening experience, and I look forward to doing more of that in the future. Learning how to present information clearly and effectively is valuable. I've spent a lot of energy thinking about how to do that and how to improve that experience, but it's been an enjoyable challenge, and I have learned a lot more about that and how it's key to this job role. Lastly, really adjusting my thinking to consider about what the user would want and how to make a good product for Allison, not for me. Since I'm currently a front-end developer, I've been in a different bubble of development, so this has truly been a positive change in perception. Certainly one I have to continue to work on and fine-tune over time. Conversely, because of my developer mindset, I have had difficulty knowing which types of tasks to prioritize. I can go down a rabbit hole of conditionals for user flows, but I wasn't sure if it was the right thing to do at this stage or worth the time. Also, I generally felt that I struggled with time management in the first couple of weeks, spending too much time on simpler tasks, trying to make them just right when that might not have been warranted. Once I caught on to these two things, I think I made some improvements by simply stopping and submitting my tasks where I was at, and I will continue to do this moving forward. Creating the wireframes on paper was also something I had difficulty with and was time consuming for me. I typically work digitally, so having this in a physical format made me work slower. Having to take photos, upload, and edit those I also found quite tedious. I have since learned the value and intention in working on paper and how it can help trace your thought process, and because of this I have changed my workflow digitally to duplicate all my sketches instead of erasing items. This concludes my presentation on Aprende and my design development process. I greatly appreciate you all taking the time to be with me here today, and I hope you have a great rest of your afternoon. Thank you.